How did you know you married the right person?
Well, interestingly enough, for me, the church that we're going to at the time, our pastor was like, it's good for you guys to make a list and write like the qualities that you want in your
Oh,
husband
yeah, I remember that.
and pray over the list and stuff like that. So for me, the list helped, but I was always praying about the person that I was going to marry because there's no way I was just going to marry anyone. It
Mm,
had to be someone that I'd prayed about. You can pray about the qualities, you can pray about the values, like, oh, I want this person to come from a good home, or I want this person to be a God-fearing person. And to be fair, that was my number one on my list.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I think you always have the question like,
Yeah.
is this the right person? Are we doing the right thing? And I think for me, honestly, I flipped the question around. I was kind of like, do I have any reasons to think that you're not the right person? And I couldn't think of any. And then
Yeah.
that's that was my confirmation in a way.
Yeah.
Um, but we thought today we'd have a conversation about like how would you know if you met the right person? What are some of the things that would kind of give you that green flag, so to speak, to kind of solidify that you have
True.
met the right person here, and I'm in the right relationship with the right person. Marriage is quite a big deal, isn't it? It's like one of the biggest decisions you make in your life.
Yeah.
Who you marry is the most powerful decision you will
Yeah.
make. It will literally impact your future. It will impact your life in many different ways.
Yeah.
And I think this topic for us was really important because a lot of people get married and they are so like, I guess, glamorized by the wedding and maybe the title of husband
Yeah.
and wife and
Yeah.
I've got the ring kind of
Yeah.
situation. But like they don't really, I guess, internalize the seriousness of that decision of
Yeah.
like I'm getting married, and also am I getting married to the right person, beyond like your emotions and your feelings, and what we're going to talk about today, I guess, is just kind of like what are some of those things that maybe you should be thinking about
Yeah.
if you are kind of at the back of your mind just wondering, did I marry the right person or am I going to be marrying the right person? So hopefully these will be helpful for you, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the first point?
For me, you genuinely just have to love spending time with the person. Like, that's the
Yeah.
simplest one and the simplest thing that I can think of. Because if you think about it, if you don't like spending time with the person that you're with, it's
Mm.
like, how do you then foresee yourselves having a lifelong marriage? How do you then foresee yourselves going the distance with your marriage? How do you
Mm.
then foresee yourselves even adding children or adding extra people into
Mm.
that
Mm.
relationship? If you two don't even like spending time together or don't even like being around each other.
Yeah, and I think the pandemic was
Oh,
the
yeah.
heightened like thing when this happened because we had people around us who were
Yeah.
like, man, I'm spending too much time with my missus or spending too much time with my husband, and I've just realized I do not like them as a person. That we kind of tolerated our relationship, or we were okay because we only saw each other in the evenings for like 3 hours, but we never spent this much time together. And I think if you think about it, that's quite sad because then how would you feel if your partner's like, what, I just can't stand being around you? Like that's
That's
painful.
painful. Yeah.
And that's horrible. That's a horrible situation to be
Mm,
in. So, you're right. I think the basics are like just being in the same space together.
yeah.
Do you like being like that? Obviously, don't get me wrong. Like, there's times where that's too much. There's times where it's like you're offering,
Yeah, because
there's friction.
you probably aren't always going to be together, if we're being
No,
honest, because there'll be times where I want to go do my own thing that I enjoy
of
doing,
course. Yeah,
and there's
yeah,
stuff that you want to do that you enjoy doing. So
yeah.
you won't always have to be together, but you have to love spending time with the
Of
person that you're
course.
with. Because,
Of course.
like you were saying, when lockdown happened, people were forced into it. You get
Yeah.
so used to like going to work and thinking, oh, well, I'm at work for like 8 hours a day. By the time I get home, we'll probably just see each other for like 4 hours of the day, so it's
Mm,
fine.
mm,
But you have to love spending time with the person that you're with. And I think it also highlighted the importance of spending time
mm,
with the person that you're with, because obviously when we were then locked down together, we're together 24/7. It
mm,
just shows you the importance of spending time with the person that you're with so you can build on your relationship, get to
mm.
know each other better. Because as you're married, things won't always stay the same. Even the things that you like may change. Even the things that
Yeah.
you enjoy doing may change. But if you don't spend that quality time together, how do you learn that about your partner? How do you
Right.
learn the things that have changed? And
Right.
how do you learn that, oh, now he enjoys this that he didn't enjoy before? Or now this thing that he enjoyed before he doesn't enjoy
Yeah.
anymore. But how do you find that out
Yeah.
if you don't spend quality time together?
Yeah. Another thing that I think that would kind of help with this question is having similar high priorities, like your life perspective, your
Right.
values,
Right.
your priorities that are pretty high on your list. They're similar. They don't need to be identical,
Yeah.
but they need to be similar enough that you're
Yeah.
kind of like on the similar page and wavelength. So I guess one simple example, to be fair, might be marriage in itself, right?
Yeah.
You might be in a relationship with somebody, and to you, you're thinking marriage is the ultimate kind of goal or the ultimate step. But to them, they're just thinking, like, I don't really value marriage like that. To
Yeah. Or
me,
I
marriage
don't
is,
get married.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to get married. So already you might have a mismatch in your values in that sense. But another big one is children. Like, you might
Oh
get married
yeah.
and all of a sudden, like, your partner says to you, I want to have kids. And you're like, I
Nah.
didn't think kids were in the picture. I didn't
Like I
think kids
never
were
thought
part of the
about having
plan.
children. They were just never in my
Yeah.
yeah.
Or like, I
And it
just don't want
happens.
any.
It actually happens. Like there's a certain conversations that people don't have beforehand.
No, no,
And
no.
then now when you're in the marriage and it's like, oh, everything's nice and good.
Yeah,
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 I
yeah.
want children. Well, I
Yes.
don't.
Yeah.
So where do we
Like,
go now?
imagine that position.
Yeah.
And that this spills into other value systems. Maybe, for example, you're a person who's really serious about your faith. You know, you might be a Christian and you're like, yeah, I'm really serious and passionate about like
Yeah.
my Christian faith, my walk with God, going to church. And then you get married to someone who doesn't share the same value systems as you in that sense, and therefore they don't see the purpose of practicing your faith in that way. Or for some of you, it might maybe be health. You know, for you, you might say, you know, health is a big thing for me. Like, I make sure I eat the right thing. I make sure that my lifestyle choices are aligned with my health goals. And then the person you're with is like, nah,
No, I don't
I
really
don't see
care.
the point. And I think don't get us wrong. Like, these aren't necessarily deal breakers,
Yeah.
but I think like it's easy for these things to not be an issue when you're not living together.
Right.
But the minute you decide to say, okay, let's get married and let's move in together, or let's buy a house together, then all of a sudden you will start to realize that your partner will have a big influence on your day-to-day habits.
Yeah.
Because now you're in a relationship. Now, sure, you can still maintain some of the things that you were doing, but now that you're like living together,
Yeah, it's different.
it's different.
Yeah.
And that's where there might start to be a little bit of friction and a little bit of like, no, this is not right. Or this is not what I thought it would be.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of my main things was the person that I marry has to be a Christian, number one, and number two, the person, because going back to the Christian part, the person that I marry had to be a Christian because those were the sorts of values that I had. I didn't want someone to marry me and then be like, well, you can't be going to church on a Sunday, or you can't be going for like prayer evenings and stuff like that.
Right,
Because
right.
I have grown up in a church. Like my whole life I've been in a church. So for someone to then come and then be like, no, you can't do that. That I could have foreseen, like it would cause so much conflict and so much
Right,
tension.
right.
And it's one of those things where I feel like it would have been like well, you either get on board and we both go to church together, or I'm out.
Right, right.
Or
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
out.
yeah.
I'm not gonna stay in this. And that's the issue. If you don't have aligned sort of like priorities
Yeah.
and aligned sort of values, you will get to a crossroads. And people know about this. You get to a crossroads, you either do what your partner's asking you to do, or you then go your separate ways.
Yeah.
And to have put in that much effort, and then the next thing you're like, well, we can't see a way through. You've put in years and years and years into the relationship. You've gotten married. And then now it's like, well, we're at crossroads. So let's go our separate ways. It seems like a bit of a waste
It
to
can
get
feel
to,
like
yeah,
that.
it
Yeah.
can feel like it's a bit of a waste because you're now at this point where it's like, I've put in all this time, all this effort. And now it's like, yeah, let's go our separate ways type of
I
thing.
know. But, you know, like we said, the value systems don't need to be identical. So,
Yeah.
you know, you might say, this is a big thing for me. Your partner's like, it's not really a big deal for me. I think, like, that's okay. But if you find that, for example, your top, I don't know, 10 things that you really care about, your partner cares none of them, like, none of these are
Yeah,
important to
that's
me.
an issue.
Maybe that will be a big issue. Let's not lie. And then at that point, you might start to be like, okay. But imagine now, the flip side. You do marry somebody who you do share the same value systems with. Maybe it's not 10 out of 10, but it might be 7 out of 10. But those 7 are like what keeps you both
Yeah,
like grounded,
yeah.
keeps you both on the same page, keeps you both like feeling like you're in this marriage as a team rather than feeling like you're working against each other in the marriage sort of thing.
So an example of one where you're both on the same page, but maybe you've got different time frames of making it happen is okay, I want to buy a house. So I'm saying to Tanda, when we get married, I want us to own our own home. And I want to do it within 3 years. And
Right.
then Tanda's saying, well, I also want to own my own home. But I was thinking maybe we could do it in 5 or 6 years. You see, we both have the same value. We're both thinking about the same thing. Although our time frames are a bit different, that's something that we can work on along the way. But the
Sure.
fact that we have the same goal, we have the same value, we want to do the same thing, that's what matters.
Yeah. Other point actually is then that family play a big part when it comes to marriage.
Okay.
And I think this was a tricky one. So this is not going to be applicable for every scenario, but I do think that if it's one of those things that you kind of learn over time that the person I married is right for me because they do care for me and value me almost at the same level as my family, if not more. Or they like connect really well with the people that I care about, which is most likely going to be your family. So, your brothers, your sisters, your mum, your dad, etc. And I think sometimes there is almost like this picture that gets painted with marriage that like the in-laws are like your enemies.
Yeah.
um,
Funny
and
because I read a comment the other day. I was just going through like posts on Instagram and I read a comment where someone would say, listen, your in-laws are not your friends. And I
yeah,
was like, oh yeah, that's a
I
deep
mean
thing.
there could be some
Deep
truth in
thing
that
to
depending on the
say.
situation. That's not like let's not sugarcoat it because this is a
Oh,
tricky one. This is not going to be for everybody, like I said. But I do
yeah.
think that another clue that you might have is that like as far as my family is concerned, no one's worried because I guess this kind of I'm taking this from the perspective that your family care about you first of all,
Yeah.
and if your family care about you, then they won't want you to marry someone who they feel is not good for you, or they feel is taking advantage of you or abusing you or whatever. But if you kind of get that, I guess, approval almost from your parents or somebody from the family that you really look up to,
Hmm.
that could be a good sign in and of itself, I think.
Yeah. And another one for me is knowing that the person that you're married to is your destiny helper. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of the saying that, it's good for you to be married to your destiny helper. Your husband or your wife is your destiny helper. And the meaning of that basically is that they are the type of person that support you in what you're doing. They're supporting you to reach your goals,
Mm,
supporting you to reach your destiny, supporting you to reach those levels and standards that you want to reach in life. Because I can imagine if I was thinking, okay, I'm getting married to Tando and I want to become a lawyer, random one. I want to become a lawyer. And then I'm like, Tando, I want to become a lawyer. And Tando's like, nah. Like, nah, I'm not supporting you in that. And sometimes it's not him basically saying it out loud, like, I'm not supporting you in that.
true, yeah.
Sometimes his actions will show that I'm not supporting you in that. Because if
Right.
I'm now having to study in the evenings and stuff like that, and he's like not helping out, then he's not helping out with the cooking, not helping out with the cleaning, not helping out with the washing, and it's still like, I expect you to do all of that, or I need you to do all of that. You can already tell his actions are not supporting what I would like to do. And I believe that when you're married to the right person, you'll know because that person will support you in the things that you want to do. They'll also help build you as a person, help build the person you want to become, the career you want to sort of like climb the ladder in and stuff. So I truly believe your husband or your wife is your destiny helper.
No, this is a big one, man. Let's not lie. And earlier on, we said that the person that you marry will influence your future. This is exactly
Yeah.
kind of the kind of thing that we were, touching on in the sense that imagine if you did have the help, right? Like if you had that type of person
Yeah.
who you knew, like, okay, everybody else in my life comes and goes, but as far as my wife is concerned, she has my back. I think that gives you a certain level of confidence to just go for the things that you want to go
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
And also it gives you that self-belief almost to say, I can't fail because it's not just me anymore, it's my wife as well, and I don't want to let her down, so I'm going to put my everything
Mm.
into this thing and I'm going to make it happen because she's shown me the support that I need to kind of really go for it.
Yeah.
Whereas on the flip side, if, as you've said, if that support system is not there, especially for the things that you personally care about,
Yeah.
it can crush a person.
It
It can
does.
really crush
Yeah.
a person, especially as well if you're the person who's supporting them with their dreams, but they don't do the same vice versa. That can really impact the dynamics of the relationship and things of that nature. So I think, yeah, if you marry the right person, what we're saying here is that that person will have your corner no matter what.
Yeah. And I feel like a great example, let me use us as an example. We have a tendency that every single year we sort of sort of switch roles as in Tanda, this is your year. What do you want to do? What sort of skills do you want to gain? And what sort of things do you want to work on? How do you want to develop yourself? And we actually do this every year. And this year is actually my year. So I'm currently working on a bookkeeping course that he made sure that he paid for so that I would do it. But this is him saying, I noticed the skill in you and it's something that you enjoy doing. It's something that you love doing. So do you know what? I will be your destiny helper and I will help you through the bookkeeping thing. That also means that some of my evenings are taken sometimes during the day. I'm having to be like, okay, can you look after our son so I can focus on this stuff? In the evenings, it's then like, can you bath him, make sure he's fed so I can do this bookkeeping side of
Right,
things?
right.
So that's what we mean by destiny helper. He's helping me to elevate myself, helping me to grow in the things that I love doing as an individual outside of our marriage and stuff. So similarly, when it was his year, I was also doing the same. If it meant I had to take out the trash, I was taking out the trash. If it meant I had to go clean the car, I was cleaning the car. So all the things that the things that he would normally do, I would then be like, okay, let me jump in and help you out so you can focus on what you need to do.
The final thing that I want to mention as well is that if you're thinking it and you're wondering, did I marry the right person? I think sometimes there isn't anything that you can point to, like specifically, but as long as deep in your heart and in your spirit, you're just feeling like I did, I married the right person. This person is right for me. It feels good. I can't explain it, but this person does feel like the right person or the person that I do want to get married to. When it comes to marriage and love, I think it's so dynamic and it's so like complex
Yeah.
that we can't just simplify it in like 10 things that you can look out for. Sometimes you just know inside of you and you can't express it or explain it, but you just know. And if you have that feeling, then great. But let's be honest, if you are feeling in something inside of you and you're just kind of doubting that and you're thinking, I'm not sure if my partner is the right person, that I don't think I married the right person here, that's something to not ignore. I'm not saying do something rational, radical. I'm just saying it's not something to ignore. Whether you like work through it together, go through
Yeah.
therapy, or whether you do something else entirely different, that's up to you. But let us know in the comments, like, what do you think? If you're married, how did you know that the person you married is the right one for you? Or what advice would you give to people who are wanting to get married
Yeah.
for them to know, like, okay, yeah, I'm marrying the right person here. It's been a pleasure. I think we've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.